Som. Som, teste som. Som, teste som.
Também não é boa altura, está bem? E claro, é assim, eu tento ligar depois das 6, eventualmente. Pode ser, é porque eu agora estou aqui no trabalho e não consigo estar a dar atenção, está bem? Ok, adeus, pode ser.
Olá, como é que você se vocês tiveram amanhã, vão só virar para seguir, e para seguir, está bem? Depois saem.
Ok, está bem.
Até às 16, vocês estão aqui no resto do dia, eles depois voltam até às 16.
Ok, pronto.
Som. Dois, som. Som. Dois, som. Som. Teste som. Dois, som. Teste som. Som, 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 som. Teste som, teste som. Dois. Dois, som, som.
Pois bem. André, isso está a virar uma cultura minha, mas eu não vejo, porque fui lá acima preparado de pé, trouxe uma terminal ao outro lado, fui preparado de pé, eu fui lá agora pescá-la, para tirar uma foto. Então, não tem, se eu tivesse pescado, não, foi muito. Eu só porque dizia para cá, estava na mão. Sim, eu vi, eu vi. E, portanto, eu fui lá agora buscar isso e já estão as cadeiras lá. Vai ver. Não, é assim, não vamos agora, eu estou a falar muito porque não tem a canal do hospital. Só que como só que não, mas eu deve seguir, então, não é uma questão. Vai para o uso, que é mais chama a coisa. Não está. Como é que é? É isso, é isso. Acho que não é direto, não. Não, para ser direto. Há de gravar, não foi. Diga. Tá. Olha, ah, quando eu faço login, né, apareceram lá duas opções: o nome ou comunicação. E eu cliquei na comunicação. Mas isto não está a ir para o. Eu estava agora a tentar aqui e a testar o streaming para o YouTube. Não, está a dar ainda a imagem. Este é o único sítio onde está a ter sessões agora, certo?
Pelos logins, a não ser que o Bruno não tenha terminado a aula lá. Será? Amanhã tiveram uma aula lá. Para que isso?
Deve ser.
Se fizesse.
Deve ser. Mas este é que ele deixa-me fazer. Também acho que seria uma vez para. Hã? Não? É bom para lá no live do Sentinela. Hã? Tá? Ok. No momento eu já estava no outro lado. Estava-me a aparecer a imagem, aquela imagem azul que tu tinhas de fundo. Era isso que me estava a aparecer. Olha, já agora, vê lá se me ouves. Sim. Sim. Também tens que esperar 30 segundos que isto atualize. Olha, Rita, tens aquela imagem azul para pôr aqui no background. Estás a ver? Sim? Ok, pronto. Está bem, está feito. Vá, tchau. Não tens em pena? Então, espera aí que eu digo ao Diogo, vou pôr aqui remotamente. Está, não te preocupes. Não. Vai haver apresentações ou é só conversa? É, vamos ver. Eu vi. Mete aqui no meu desktop, se faz favor. ANF, RS-ANF 1. RS-ANF 1. Não dá?
Não?
Dá? A partir foi usada aí de manhã. Ah, então não é preciso, não. As apresentações agora são outras, certeza.
A sessão da azul pode ficar. Sim. Foi, o azul pode ficar. O azul é igual.
Ok. Não, eu estava aqui, ele estava a perguntar se precisava da apresentação de manhã. Agora não consigo meter isto em imagem, por causa do, está protegido. Tem que ficar assim. Vá. Pois, porque de manhã tinhas um vídeo com isto, não era animado, não era? Então mete lá. Mete essa. É que está em PowerPoint. Então, já vi. Então, vai. Obrigado. Tchau. Tchau, tchau.
Não é para sentar, a gente deixar aqui só. Quem quiser que se sirva. Não.
A questão, é assim, os microfones estão ligados, esses.
Está tudo ligado?
Está tudo ligado. Esse nunca desliga sequer. Estes estão desligados, mas estão preparados para hoje. Agora aqui, a tela, não sei se vão falar do público. Eu vou. Não, aliás, eu vou contar com essa própria coisa. Não é essa questão.
Ah, estava a ver.
Digo eu.
Obrigada.
Direto não. Se não vai ter que trabalhar mais. Não dá. Está. Já estou a chegar.
É o deixa-me.
É só esta?
Isto aqui está em problema.
É assim, depois, normalmente nós ativamos o laser aqui, mas eu posso ver se eles não dão algum.
Se aparecer qualquer uma observação.
Normalmente nós fazemos ativamos o laser, eu passo aqui e aponta com este laser. Mas se quiser um ponteiro, pode. Mas este bate não é muito. Eu estou a dizer. Pronto, mas se quiser um ponteiro, eu vejo se os senhores têm ali. Ok.
Obrigado.
Boa saúde, pessoa de serviço, da defesa do planeta.
Isto nacionalmente, aqui, exatamente. Maravilha. Claro, mas não nem mais. Mas estão agora a dizer que também durante a unidade? Eu não ia. Não. Não, mas
Ele parece que precisava bem. Ele está aí. Havia. Mas enviaram para as pessoas. Em Semana. Já que mais ninguém tem que saber, está bem? Depois eu
porque a nossa falta era posicionar o nosso e não era só dizer
vamos funcionar. Muito bem. Mas consegui naquele prazo? Não.
Ai, meu Deus. Por acaso, o que acontece na antologia, entendo que lá, e tem uma monta muito pensar sobre o que foi a descrição. O que vai ser um deles, o que vai. Só para para explicar mais a gente, não, sim, é mais comunista, tem que ser e não tem comunidade. Não, mas não. Então vamos almoçar com os dois. Hello, welcome. Now, you know, the thing for the people. I did. Welcome. The Bible says, it was very low. Are you okay? Yes. I don't know. It's supposed to say that you are the one. Well, so much it's Nós acho que é muito lá.
Não, nós temos que tomar farinha e fruta e
Só.
chegar. Não, fala, não, mesmo chegar para lá. Consegue ouvir?
Já vejo. No, I will open the presentation. No.
Já deu. She went to Santa Marta, which is very similar to Santa Maria, that is not. Está funcionando? Não preciso de microfone quase. Okay. Well, hello everyone again, for those of you who are here for the second time today, and thank you very much for coming.
I'm speaking in English, sorry, because we do have a lot of special guests with us today. So this will be our first session in the Innovation Days about projects that we've been developing in our hospital. This one is called Bright. It was funded by EIT Health, and it's reaching a milestone, which is the end of the project, because it went really, really well. So to start off our seminar or our session, I would like to invite Cristina Bescos from EIT Health to give us the warm welcome. So please, Cristina, if you want to join me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mafalda. So it's really a pleasure to be here. I don't want to take much time, but just to say hello from EIT Health. It's really an honor for us to have contributed to this project that is now coming to an end. For those of you who don't know EIT Health, it's a European Institute of Innovation and Technology, that's EIT, in the area of health. So the intention is to help to get really the innovations to the users. So we know in Europe we produce very good science, but we are not that good in getting that commercialized. And we have a clear risk with other geographies, and we have to think a bit big in order to compete. And that's the idea of EIT Health, always thinking about scaling, internationalization, and the other element that is typical from us is what we call the knowledge triangle. If you're in EIT Health, you have to know this. It's in our vocabulary, which means that we bring together always research, academy, and the business side. So think together different people, different disciplines in order to really bring the products to life. So this project Bright is it's an innovation project, and what is special from this type of projects on us is that they have to be international. They have to cover several countries, that's for sure, and they have to be very mature, because our indicator of impact is really the product needs to go to the market. This is what we want. I mean, it's not about good ideas. It's really about really bringing that to the users. And I'm really happy when I read the things about Bright, that you see the number of patients that have already been people have gone through the tests, and you talk about 80% of patient positive feedback. It's amazing, no? The results that we have reached so far. Just to tell you a bit of a story about myself. So I also come from the research side. I have a background in biomedical engineering. I work for private and public sector. And I remember, so one of my best projects or my worst experience was we did a super interesting innovation in the area of managing heart failure patients. We had a product that was running for a clinical trial 1 year at the patient's home for a clinical trials, they say, in 3 countries, more than 100 patients all over. And then when we had all the positive results, then the company that I was working for, they decided they acquire a different company, so another startup, and they decided to go on a different way. So, and this is what I decided. This is not about having good ideas. It's not about having good results. We just need to drive the business side. And it's very important that we talk also, even in this setting of the hospitals, it's about business. Because in the end, somebody has to pay. It's not about, even in the public system, somebody pays. So health needs to be affordable and needs to be sustainable. So we are always bringing that topic also to innovation. So I hope in this you will see some results on this project, which are very, very promising, so that can really scale. Because in the case of Bright, it's a change of mentality. And again, when we look at about preventative care, and we talk about screening programs, and it's a different model, and not to take care of the sick people, but to advance as healthy as possible, as long as possible. So that requires a completely different mindset of how we deliver healthcare and how we invest our resources. And it's very important that these kind of projects is not only about the technology itself, but how we design this service that makes sense, of course, from the patient side, but also from the healthcare system side. And I hope from EIT Health that we can help in that, in bringing the right people together. And this was the case. This is an amazing international consortium with this combination of expertise and experiences. And again, from my side, I don't have more to say. I hope it was really a good experience to work with us at EIT Health in this project, and I hope we can continue to support the program in the future. So apart from these innovation programs, we have other programs like education, because we need also to bring skills to the users that will have to deploy these applications, and also accelerator programs in order to help link to investors or link to other type of mentors and support for market access in other geographies. So we are here for you. We always say that you are our voice, so your success is our success. We will be nobody without your projects, and so I'm really, really happy to be able to be here today and to listen to the interesting part that comes just after me. So thank you very much.
Okay, so good afternoon to everyone. First of all, thanks for coming. Special thanks for our guests, our colleagues from Bright Project, and also special thanks for Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro, Portuguese League Against Cancer, and Evita, two important associations that represent the patients, the citizens, and they are very much interested in this field. Also, you have here invited from other areas, people from research from Instituto Superior Técnico. And so welcome to everyone. I have a few words at the beginning, just to say, I totally support what you just said. We have to bring the research to business. I will say here the main business is the value for the citizens. So of course will be a business as well, because there is economical value, but the major economical is to save lives. So if we can diagnose earlier breast cancer, provide curative intent for those women, this will be our major business in this field. And that's why we embraced this project. Embrace this project because in oncology, usually we are, our daily life is treat patients with cancer. What about if you could do something to detect earlier in a way that we can cure much more women with this problem? And what was interesting for us is that because we became involved with this project, it was not easy for the oncology department because we are so much overwhelmed with patients. So you have to take care now about normal citizens, normal women without cancer that want to participate in this project. What we realized is that was very well received by the community. Means that we had an outstanding capacity to recruit in 1 year, because really women wants to do something for their health. They want to be proactive. Women usually are very proactive in many things, in many sense, but here they want to really be proactive to decide about their health and the things they could do before. So I think this was very interesting, and we learned not only that, but we also learned that in this Portuguese part that I'm going to present, not the results, this will be presented by Gonçalo, was the person in our department that was, let's gonna say, leading the team. We just want also to address one important point. Here there are some answers, but many questions. Everybody wants to know their risk for having a cancer, particularly when you are at young age. We are getting there, but we are not still totally capable to define precisely the risk to everyone. I think Bright and antigenes is one step further on that direction, okay? But that will be then to be conjugated with the very good clinical practice. Means know the clinical history of each citizen and try to provide them if you are a high-risk person or an intermediate risk person or probably a low-risk person. So here genomics will help us a little bit to define that risk. And that was the project that we embraced. Of course, you had to understand that we were already using it because we had the protocol of mainstreaming for about 10 years in Portugal, here in this hospital. So we are very get inside the issue of having high-risk persons. So monogenic variants. For that was, I would say, usual for us, but not this part of the science. That means the polygenic risk score. And that delivered to patients, not patients, but to citizens that had no previous history of cancer. So that was something different for us. And so when we were invited to be part of this consortium, and so thanks to Antigenes, thanks to the University of Tartu, thanks also for all the other participants. We have been involved in many meetings with the IES from business school as well, and the region of Uppsala. We visit Uppsala this year. We were there also presenting some results. And we will have this afternoon also, I think, Felipe showing us some of the financial or the economical basis to see whether this could be a good scenario for Portugal. And the Portuguese team, it's here. It's not completed because we have no space for all the pictures, all the photographs. And it was added along the time. And what was very interesting for us is that we really did that because we had the nurses, doctors, secretariat, Mafalda helping us. So everybody was involved in this project because this was totally new for us to receive in the hospital, I would say, healthy citizens for detect the risk of cancer. This is usually not the main business of this hospital. Okay, main business of this hospital is to treat patients with disease, not to receive people without disease, and that was different for us. So you will see that Gonçalo will explain how we could manage that along because we are short of space, short of time, and we could manage of that. And at the very end, it was not a waste of time. It was a good time because I think we did our part for the bride, and we gained the most important part of our business. That means that we are capable to interact with the society that also needs other answers besides the treatment of disease, particularly the prevention and the early detection of the disease such as cancer. So having said that, I will call Gonçalo. Gonçalo, please, and that's your stage.
Okay. Good afternoon. Professor already said a lot of things that I wanted to mention, but this was, in fact, a very important project also for our institution, for us doctors as well, because involved healthy people. And us as medical oncologists, we are used to deal with sick people that have a diagnosis of a cancer. So when we arrange consultations, we just give them a date, and because they are sick, they accept that date. They change their lives to treat their disease. With this project, it's different. It's something that we are not really used to because it's healthy people that were recruited, a lot of healthy women, and they were volunteers. They were not getting, okay, they will get some results about their genetic tests, but they would have to change their lives to come to our project, to come to this hospital. People from outside already understood it's not a small hospital, it's not easy to get here. And we have to rearrange, organize with a multidisciplinary team, as Professor Luis Costa showed, and to offer these people all the conditions to participate, and more than that, for them to get something out of it, not just us, but also them. And because of that, we organized the Portuguese protocol in this way. We publish in the what were the criteria to get into this project. Only women between 35 and 49 years old were acceptable to participate, and also women with past oncology disease could not also get accepted. So first of all, we'll make a phone appointment to see if they would fulfill the inclusion criteria. And after we will arrange the first meeting. We'll propose a date, and at this first meeting, the woman would have touch with the nurse and also with the doctor. So we made an effort for the volunteers to ask the questions, to understand what the project was about, and also to sign an informed consent and have the opportunity to ask the right questions. And the nurse would also ask some questions that the women would have to answer, and take the buccal swab sample if they agreed to do the genetic test. And after, we'll also offer these women the opportunity, all of them, to make to be submitted for an imaging test like mammography and ultrasound. So that was another challenge with the radiology department, to accommodate all these healthy women in a public hospital and offer them these exams. So it was also a big challenge for the radiology test service. And also, when the results were not clear, they would have to repeat again. So, but all of the women were proposed for this. And after, we'll arrange a second meeting to give the results and a recommendation letter, and also the results for the mammography and ultrasound. So this was the project, how we organize here in Portugal. And these had a lot of media exposure. These just are a few examples in different channels: newspaper, TV, even a podcast, radio, and also the site of the government got interested in this project, published this project. And as Professor Luís Costa, this made a lot of people be interested to participate here. And so many people contacted us to participate in this project. We had to accommodate all these interested people, and we had to arrange extra consultations. And the solution was to start working on Saturdays. And to work on a Saturday in this hospital is not just the doctor and the nurse. We need the security, we need the cleaning lady, we need the secretary. It's not an easy thing to organize. So we had to organize these bright Saturdays, as we called, to accommodate all these volunteers that were interested. Each Saturday, we will see 70 volunteers, more or less. And here I bring a picture. As you can see, everyone is very happy to work on a Saturday. And this is just an example of a normal report, just to show to the people that don't really know this project. This is a 39-year-old woman who did the PRS test, and the result was a minus 0.61 standard deviation. What does this mean? It means she has a reduced risk compared to the general population of develop breast cancer in the future, at least in the next 10 years. So it's estimated for this particular woman to develop breast cancer in 10 years in 0.86%. Obviously, this is just based on her genetic risk. And another way of showing these results is also by the percentile. The 50th percentile, we know it's the average. This woman was allocated in 28th percentile. And in this yellow box, it shows the recommendation. This exam also had the capacity to arrange, to individualize the screening for this particular person based just on this genetic risk. And in this example, because she had lower risk, the recommendation was to follow up the general recommendations, and in Portugal is to do the screening mammography starting at age of 50. This is more information that comes in the report. It shows what were the variants that were altered that reached the genetic risk. And this is another way of showing the results. Here we can see the patient risk of developing breast cancer in the next 10 years. And this is the general population. And here we also see the curves. What about our results? We start recruiting volunteers in June 2023. This is the first was the first consultation. However, due to technical reasons, we could not open to the general population. We had to start only with employees of our hospital. And that lasted for a few months. A lot of people from our hospital showed interest and participate in this study. But in the beginning of 2024, we opened to the general population. And throughout 1 year, we saw all these participants. We finished first consultations in June 2024. However, as I mentioned, we had to book a second consultation to give the results by the doctors and explaining the reports. And that just finished last week, November 2024. And we had 800 people recruited in this 1 year. And at least 800 people came to us and talked to us, and we offered them the informed consent for them to think about if they wanted to participate. And we received in total 789 reports. So 789 is official number so far for this project in the Portuguese cohort. And as I mentioned, we offer people to do the mammographies. We only offer to the women that didn't have any past mammography in the last 1 year. So if they had a mammography in the last year, we'll ask them to bring the next consultation to get the results. And in this hospital, we did until September 2024, 342 mammographies and 74 waiting that already been called to do. So over half of our cohort did exams in this hospital. And also to mention, women that were pregnant or lactating we didn't offer them for obvious reasons. And there were quite a lot as well that participate in our project. They could do the genetic test. However, we didn't offer them the radiological exam. What about the age? The average age of our cohort was 41 years old, and about 47% of the women that participate were below or 40 years. What about the genetic risk? It's interesting to note, this is the entire cohort. In our population, the average percentile was 50.68%. This is exactly in the middle. For me, it was an expected result because maybe I was biased by the reports I gave. I had the impression the Portuguese population was in higher risk, but this is the official result. So I'm surprised and I'm quite happy that the risk is not so high. And I also did the same. We also stratified this in severity class for the entire cohort. What does this mean? It means that if the women were below 50 percentile, she was considered low risk. These women had the recommendations to follow up the screening according to our government recommendation. Average, it was a slightly increased risk of developing. Almost half of the patient were 47% were in this group. High, 31 women had the percentile 96 to 99, and 3 women allocated in the percentile 100%. This is very high risk. What about the population below 40 years? I also had the impression they would be higher risk, especially because it's women that they showed us, they informed us they had a lot of family history. So I always thought this would affect their genetic risk. But according to our results, in the less than 40 years cohort, the average percentile was also 50%. And the same for the severity class. It was well distributed, so it was similar to the entire cohort. Almost half of the people had low risk, and the other half had increased risk. We also question the women if they already been tested for these monogenic variants, these mutations like BRCA type, and 5 of them had already been tested when they came to our project. 4 of them had a negative result, and 1 of them had a positive result confirmed. Actually, I saw this woman, and she wanted to use our test because she was in doubt of doing the prophylactic bilateral mastectomy, and she wanted to gain more information about her genetic risk, even though I explained to her she shouldn't use our test, this test to make a decision, but this woman was positive. And we also asked if their familiars are already been diagnosed with monogenic variants, and we had 16 women that mentioned that family relatives had been diagnosed. What about family history? We also asked if their family had been diagnosed with breast or prostate cancer. About 14% had previous family history of breast or prostate cancer. And this, the affinity, just to mention, about 6% had first and second degree family with prostate and breast cancer. Also, multiple breast cancer. About 4% of the volunteers had relatives with diagnosed with multiple breast cancer, and 5% or 6% of the relatives with ovarian, fallopian, and peritoneal cancer. We had a criteria to refer for genetic counseling. We also have in this hospital a genetic department. And when we found out this woman that had a strong family history, we would propose for genetic consultation. We made about 20 referrals. However, some of these referrals were refused with the recommendation not the woman to be tested, but the familiar that was still alive to be tested. The familiar with cancer. Few of these volunteers actually came to our project throughout the genetic consultation, and we also made a few referrals, extra criteria. This criteria is mostly for breast and ovarian syndrome. However, us as oncologists, we found out some women had a very strong family history of other types of cancer. So a few of them we refer, for example, with colorectal family history. What about the radiology findings? As expected, in young women, we all know that the breast is quite dense. So about 80% of the women had a dense breast. This is also a recognized factor of increased risk for breast cancer. And these are the results of our exams. About 20% of the women had an unclear result. So they would have to repeat a new mammography in 6 to 8 months or even an MRI. And about 7% actually were performed a biopsy. They had suspicion lesions. Fortunately, only one so far confirmed positive malignancy result. So this, we actually made the diagnosis of an healthy woman, early diagnosis of breast cancer. Other data that we collected, we also collected data based on other risk factors already identified. These are mostly epidemiological data, like medical history, medication, body mass index. Obesity is a very known recognized risk factor for breast cancer. The use of hormonal contraceptives, pregnancy, breastfeeding, and especially smoking and alcohol. We also have these data of all our cohort. And in the last consultation, we would give a questionnaire satisfaction questionnaire. Unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of adhesion in answers. Only 74% of the women replied. But the most important is most of them thought the information about Bright was sufficient, clear, and understandable, almost 90%. And 98.6% of the responders said they were very happy to participate in this project. And now, very fast, I just wanted to show a clinical case. This is a real clinical case we encounter in our project. A 39-year-old healthy female with no presenting breast symptoms. She had a relevant family history of breast cancers, 2 maternal grandmother sisters with breast cancer diagnosed after 60 years old, a paternal grandmother premenopausal breast cancer, and a paternal grandfather brother with pancreatic cancer. This was a smoker. This is just to mention, according to this criteria, even though she has a family history, she didn't fulfill the criteria for referral to genetic counseling. And in the medical consultation, she had an innocent breast clinical exam. We offered her the mammography. This is her mammography. But in the ultrasound, this lesion was identified, was suspicious, and a biopsy was performed, as we can see here. Also, an MRI was performed. There is this suspicious lesion in the left breast. Again, in another site, this lesion. And a biopsy came positive for an invasive lobular carcinoma. This was the positive biopsy that I showed. It was a luminal breast cancer with hormonal receptors positive, HER2 negative, with a proliferative index of 10%. And based on that, we proposed her for upfront resection. This is the result. Confirmed the invasive lobular carcinoma, which was staged at PT2 and 0. According to this result, she was proposed for Oncotype DX. This is a genetic test that will orientate us in the adjuvant treatment. Because she was young and she had a recurrence score of 24, she had a risk of benefit of chemotherapy about 7%, so she was submitted to 7%. And why I bring this case? It's our positive result, but also the report that I showed earlier, it was of this woman. In the report of the polygenic risk score, she had a low risk of developing breast cancer. It's interesting to note that, unfortunately, this is a very clinical, useful test. However, it doesn't make diagnosis of cancer, of breast cancer. It's good to predict in the general population, but sometimes individual cases, we need to arrange other forms of better prediction. This way, the next steps we pretend with our project is to do a follow-up of these women that participate in our project, to share and publish our results, also integrate with other cohorts that we're going to see here in this afternoon, and analyze this data. And to analyze this data, nowadays, we are talking a lot about artificial intelligence. As I mentioned, we have genetic information. We also have imaging information that is also related to breast cancer risk and the clinical history. We also collected that, and we intend to analyze all this data, integrate, and maybe with artificial intelligence, better predict the risk of developing breast cancer. And that's all. Thank you. I don't know if the questions should... yes, okay, I see. Yes, I see one question there, maybe. Yes. Yes, she already I just showed that for the interesting, for the clinical case, because she had a slight increase risk and a prediction of benefit of adjuvant chemotherapy. We proposed for adjuvant chemotherapy. She already done. She's been doing quite well. She also was submitted for adjuvant radiotherapy, but Oncotype just to mention, is only for people that have diagnosed cancer, not for healthy individuals. This is a genetic test of the tumor, not a systemic.
Is that a common practice here?
It's quite common to use Oncotype. There are other genetic exams that predict benefit of adjuvant chemotherapy. Most commonly use Oncotype in our department, but we have criteria to propose for these genetic tests. Not all the women are proposed for Oncotype.
Thank you.
There is another question.
Considering the conclusion regarding, considering the conclusion that you didn't identify the risk for genetic and you had a positive in the remaining population, what is the outcome for that? And second question is, what's next about Bright? What do you think about now?
The conclusion, the first question, if I understood correctly, is because in the clinical case that I showed, we didn't find a reason for the woman to develop breast cancer. The first, the most obvious answer to that is we don't know yet everything. That's why we need to do better. We need to predict better. And that is also the answer to your second question, is we need to try to uniformize and use everything we know, especially regarding risk of developing breast cancer. And that is not only genetic alterations, also lifestyle alterations, and also imaging alterations like breast density, and try to integrate all these data. And we hopefully with artificial intelligence, we can come up with a more precise solution. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, myself. So see now it's time to listen the Estonia database results, please. Is name there? No. You present? Oh, I'm sorry.
This one, right? Yeah. Just
good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for listening to us. My name is Ina Feldman, and disclaimer, I'm not a clinician. I'm health economist working in the Uppsala County Council, Region Uppsala in Sweden. And I will share with you our experience with Bright Project, looking at the Swedish arm. On behalf of the team, our PhD student Sergio Flores, research nurse Helena Lindgren, me, and our consultant breast cancer surgeon Andreas Karakatsanis. So some background fact about Sweden and breast cancer. So as in the whole world, this is the most frequent cancer form in women. And last year we have 11,399 new cases and 1,376, 377 deaths, 2023. What is important that about 4% of new cases was detected among women who were younger than 40 years old. And why we are talking about 40 years old? Because in Sweden, our mammography screening starts at 40 years old. So all women between 40 and 74 years old are offered for free mammography screening from 18 to 24 months, every 2 years approximately. And the uptake rate is very high in Sweden. It's about 81%. So what about Bright study in Sweden? So this was the introduction on new genetic-based cancer screening using polygenic risk score test. And the purpose of the study and the Swedish arm to test the acceptability, clinical value, and feasibility with the main aim to integrate this kind of screening in the healthcare system. So Bright project in Sweden was performed in 5 steps, we can say like that. Number 1, recruitment, and we did it through the social media, only using the electronic accesses. After recruitment of the patient, we collected the baseline data, background information, questions about participant family history, and then all the contacts have been done via email. Then the participant who expressed their wish got the test kits home to do it at home, and they returned the test to our breast units and then to the antigens laboratory. After that, all the participants got their tests and they got the suggestions. What are recommendations according to the test results? After that, we collected the feedbacks from the patients. So looking at the recruitment, we did a press release. We went to social media, mostly Instagram and Facebook. And we got a lot of help from our information department at the hospital because they could do exactly targeted advertisement to reach those women between 35 and 49 years old, young women. It was the target group. So exactly through the advertisement, the women could access the registration system and give the informed concern about to participate in the study, and they could answer the survey and give their context data. So as I said before, all the communication went through email address, and this is pretty usual in Sweden. So all the data was stored in the RedCap system in the Uppsala University. So next step, data collection. Our research nurse did all the procedure. So we got the kits from antigens and we formed the letter with the very clear instruction to the patients. With that, they got also the return envelope to send the tests back to the breast units. And then the tests were sent to the lab, to the antigens labs. So all the collected samples were registered at the lab and in our database using this barcode connected with the test and the patient. What about the results? So recruitment was done in March and February last year, this year, February this year. So in total, more than 1,000 participants expressed their wish to participate in the study. So we have sent 920 kits because sometimes there was some missing address, some missing contact information, so on. And finally received 785 tests to send to the lab. At the same time, we developed the report, how to explain to the patient their risks and how they can refer themselves to the population and judge what does it mean to have this and that risk. So according to our clinician, we divided the patient for 3 groups, according to the risks, relative risk. Low to average when relative risk is less than 1.5, slightly elevated between 8.5 and 2.7, and elevated more than 2.7. So depending on those risks, we developed 3 different recommendations and report for the patients. For those who had low to average risk, it was like report, and that was like general recommendation. For slightly elevated and elevated, it was a report, letter with recommendation, and offer to book a consultation with a clinician. So, how our population looks like? So the most of the women had low or average risk, relative risk, 83%. Slightly elevated, 16%, and elevated 1.4%, only 11 people from those 785. So in total, 71 participants, they have booked the consultation. 1 with low risk, 61 with slightly elevated, and 8 with elevated. So almost all with elevated risk booked the consultation with clinicians. So just now we have provided 63 consultations. So we meet all the patients who really want to come, because somebody booked and when they decide not to come, they were pregnant, they were breastfeeding or something else. So for those who came, country risk was calculated and mammography screening were offered to everybody. 4 of the participants got the MRI test according to clinician assignment. No cancer were detected, I can say immediately. Then how the participant feel, how they charge, how they can respond to participate to the BRIGHT concept, to the BRIGHT project. So we send the follow-up questionnaire after 6 weeks after they receive their results. And we have response rate about 60%, so people were very willing to respond. And the question about the information, was that sufficient? So more, the huge part of the participants said yes, 76%, and almost good, 20%. So most of the people said that they got enough information and they can understand the test results and what is the study about. Important question, how did they feel after they got their results? I'm calm, said almost 88%. I feel satisfied, 85%. So pretty good result, pretty good response. Not so many who were worried and nervous and so on. But what is the most important, that more than 90% said that they were glad to have the opportunity to participate in the BRIGHT study. And we think that's a very good result. If we're looking for feasibility, acceptability question. Then we send the second follow-up after 4-6 months when participants received their previous test. Of course, the response rate was lower. We have it's about 36%, but people still answered the questionnaire and they're still calm. They said that it was a good decision to participate. They will follow the recommendation. And also important that they say that was totally understandable. And we worked a lot with antigens together to provide the report and recommendation together with clinicians that people understand and can use it. So as a conclusion, finally, what we can see that our set to recruit people and to provide the test using only the electronic channels, social media, public website, it was very successful. So it was very easy to recruit people and people were happy to do and use these channels to participate in the study. So digital data collection was, I can say, relatively cheap and very easy to provide. And we will also see that to provide sampling, to provide test at home, it was also very, very easy. So the main conclusion that we can say that what we tried, what we have proved during the BRIGHT study is a good service model, and it is absolutely possible to implement it to the current practice of screening now, for like an additional service model. What we are doing now, we want to scientifically analyze the data we have collected, because to implement this new program, a new cancer screening approach, we need we need scientific evidence. It was questions we got from all the professionals. So we would like to see how our population looks like, how they want to participate in this study, how they feel about recruitment process, data collection, delivering the results, and clinical recommendation. is it feasible from the patient's perspective? But the second question, interesting for us, we would like to see if there are any correlation between PRAS test results and those well-known breast cancer risks that we collected from the patient, like family history, BMI, different kind of factor like date for first men's breastfeeding, childbirth, and so on. So now we are doing this kind of analysis. And what is the most important, we would like to provide the possible scenario, how we can include PRAS tests in breast cancer screening routines and guidelines. So this is our plan for now. And that's it about Swedish arm results and the process. So thank you. Questions? No more questions? Okay. Yeah.
So my name is Neeme Tõnisson. My background is clinical genetics and lab medicine. I'm the PI of this Pride project, and I'd really like to thank Kristina Peskos, all the good colleagues from the Portuguese, Swedish, Estonian teams, partners from Spain and Hungary. So I'm presenting here by the Estonian study results. So we did a study in 3 clinical arms in Lisbon, in Uppsala region, and in Tartu University Hospital, Estonia. So the first slide is just to show the need of stratified screening approach. This is breast cancer data, 5 years breast cancer data from Estonia. We start our national screening at 50 years of age, and to see that considerable proportion of the cases are actually detected below the age of 50 years, and this is a common project. This is a common problem all over developed countries, and we definitely need solutions to this. And polygenic risk score is something which could be used for stratification. The project used antigens, anti-BC test, which already has a regulatory clearance. It's based on large GWAS study and has been further validated in genetic data from UK biobank and Estonian biobank, and already it was validated beforehand in Norwegian dataset. I'm showing here how it stratifies the individuals or women according to their estimated breast cancer risk. So 10%, if we take the average risk of 50-year-olds women as the gold standard for a commonly accepted standard for initiating the mammography screening, based on the same risk level estimate, already 10% of women could be referred to screening 10 years earlier, and actually 1% already 15 years earlier. And if we are using how we classify exactly those risks, it depends on the local context, healthcare systems. The polygenic risk score as such is a continuous variable, and actually in our Estonian model, we used it as like a dynamic guideline. At 50 years of age, everybody gets involved in screening, but we just gradually increase the proportion of women according to the risk level compared to the average, and starting from the age of 35. And of course, in the cost-utility analysis, we also discussed the de-escalation scenarios. there is a possibility that some really low age groups perhaps, and if we are better with the modeling, some women could delay the screening or do it at larger intervals. This is a study scheme in Estonian R. The publication is already available in medRxiv as it was in Portugal and Sweden. It can be divided in recruitment, data collection, genetic testing, giving the clinical recommendations and collecting feedback stages. In Estonia, the difference was that we used 4 different recruitment channels, including website, including primary care, including also pharmacies. And actually they all performed quite well. And perhaps the website was the numbers estimated to be collected from the website, 200, they were filled in 2 days. So basically, there was a really high acceptance. People, women were willing to participate in the study. So it performed exceptionally well. And I'm also showing the clinical recommendations given. Indeed, so in this case, we divided the risks into up to the average risk, then risk levels increasing up to 2-fold, then 2 to 3-fold, or increasing 3 or more-fold. In the Uppsala stratification, they used NICE grading, so risks up to 1.5 times, then 1.5 times to 2.7 times, and 2.7 times and above. So it can be discussed, and it needs to be discussed. And even though we are probably setting up genetic-based screening in Estonian national healthcare as well, it will be initially quite simplified, and I'm showing it as well. But the basics is that depending on the risk level, we are initiating mammography at early time, then we shorten the intervals, are doing annual screening. At certain level, you add MRI to the screening protocols. You can also discuss the chemo prevention. And this is these are the percentages in different risk groups in Estonia, and actually it corresponds quite well to what we have expected. We don't see big biases from the population structure as it was in Portugal and also in Sweden. So actually the results are quite comparable. We just need to put them into local epidemiology context. And importantly, 15.5% of women were referred to mammography immediately, or were given the recommendation that they should start mammography screening soon. And 19% were referred to clinical genetics counseling, but actually much less participated there. And those are also the clinical findings in women initiating screening. So we had benign findings in 14 women, precancerous lesion in 1, and 1 carcinoma in situ. And actually, if we look at the median relative risk levels, so they were at increased risk based on the polygenic risk score, just happened to be. We had 4 monogenic findings in Estonian arm. Among those women attending the clinical genetics counseling, 99 of them. In some cases, we write on the data from a close relative having cancer. Already she was tested and there was no MPV findings, so we decided that we don't see any reason to do the same testing in the right participant. Surprisingly, we didn't see any BRCA genes, BRCA mutations here, although they were quite common in the biobank subgroup in our previous study. But here we would like to go and test all the DNA samples which are still in storage also for the MPVs independent of the family history, but currently we have relied on the family history for those for this MTV testing. And this is Estonian participant feedback. The short term as well as long term. So long term was 6 months after receiving the results. So they don't differ very much, and feedback is really quite positive, as it was also in Portuguese and Swedish arms. And the questions asked from professionals were actually quite practical. People wanted to have explained about the difference of monogenic and polygenic risks. What does absolute and relative risk actually mean? And it was a bit difficult for clinicians to explain. And the questions were also very pragmatic on where they should go for follow-up and how to do any further checkups. I'm happy to tell that the Bright service model we have developed is already implemented in Estonian private healthcare. People have to pay for the testing, but the results will go to national healthcare database. And actually, the follow-up mammography steps are already reimbursed for people. So it's paid by the public healthcare. And from 2025, supposedly July, perhaps, we will initiate PRS-based breast cancer screening also on national healthcare, but it's currently limited to 40-year-old women. And most likely there will be just 2 different risk groups. It's not established yet, but at some risk level, they are allowed to go to, or they are referred to mammography screening at the earlier age. But the exact details are a bit under discussion. Of course, we would like to see that the proportion of population entering stratified screening is bigger, but it's important always to take the first step. So in summary, I think I'm happy that all the unconventional recruitment channels work very well. We were the first to establish the self-filled digital questionnaire for family history to systematically evaluate the family history. The home DNA sampling was easily accepted. The PRS breast cancer stratified screening is fully feasible and well accepted among patients as well as healthcare professionals. And the project has definitely increased the genetic and overall risk awareness among participants and professionals. And we are happy then to propose the service model also for healthcare system. I thank all my colleagues from the bottom of my heart, all the partners of the Bright Consortium, and then we will continue with health economics studies results from here. So maybe we leave the questions to the discussion part.
Thanks a lot. Question for Professor Lee. Yeah. So please, thank you.
Okay, so we're down to the last presentation before the coffee break and the panel discussion. So let's see how this works. All right. So the plan for my presentation is to bring to you the preliminary results of the cost effectiveness analysis for Estonia, Sweden, and Portugal, but with the bigger emphasis on the preliminary results for the Portuguese setting. It's a bit of background noise here. And I've been working with together with my colleague Ina, who presented initially on the Swedish results, and the colleagues from Portugal, from Estonia, and the clinicians from Sweden. Before we even started the work, we wanted to know, okay, what does the evidence say about the cost effectiveness of risk-based intervention, screening intervention for breast cancer? So we did a systematic review of existing economic evaluations of risk-based screening interventions in breast cancer, and we saw that there was actually not a lot done. So we found 9 studies looking at the cost effectiveness, and 78% of these supported the cost effectiveness of risk-based strategies. Only 1 study modeled polygenic risk score. So there's a lot to be done here. And basically, we need more evidence. And for those of you who are not familiar with the economic evaluation, so economic modeling as an area of economic evaluation is actually used both in Portugal and in other countries in Europe and globally to assess the economic impact of different technologies. So that is done by the local Infarmed to know whether they should reimburse new medication, for instance. So the goal of the analysis for the Portuguese setting was to assess the cost effectiveness of risk stratified screening using the isolated effect of polygenic risk score for women aged 35 years compared with the standard age-based mammography starting at age 50. And we did this analysis for the 3 settings, as you can see there. For Portugal, we considered biennial screening from age 50 to 69. For Sweden, biennial screening from 40 to 74. And for Estonia, biennial screening from 50 to 69. But here, so as mentioned, the main focus is going to be on the details of the Portuguese analysis. We modeled, so we followed over time a cohort of women aged 35, so until death. And these this modeled cohort of women were not yet engaged in public breast cancer screening programs, but they may have higher breast cancer risk than the average risk in the current screening group. And why did we pick the age of 35? And this is because women, there's evidence that women with the highest risk will reach the average risk level of a 50-year-old woman already at age 35. So that's why we started modeling this early. And you can see on the screen conceptual model. So you see the circles, they represent different health states. So what we're doing with this model is that we start with this cohort of women age 35, we follow them over time as they progress from the initial state, the healthy group, they progress over time to the other health states. So they can be screened and diagnosed with a non-invasive in situ breast cancer or an invasive breast cancer, so stage 1, 2, 3, 4, or they can also die along the way due to breast cancer or due to other cause mortality. And in the model, we do account for breast cancer being diagnosed either through screening or via symptoms. So in between screens, women could go to their GP and then be sent for further investigation. For simplification, we have not considered any transitions between the different states. So if women, actually don't think I need the microphone, but so if women were detected, so screened and detected with a stage 1 breast cancer, so we assume in the model that they wouldn't progress to stage 2, 3, or 4 because they would be immediately treated. So, and of course, in reality, this is a simplification of reality so that the model wouldn't become too complex, but we're aware that this is a limitation. And then to each of these states, we also assigned costs using the best data available for the Portuguese setting, and also utility. So what is a utility? It's an estimate or a weight of quality of life that women have when they are in each of these states. So for example, if you are in a healthy group, then you would be assigned quality of life weights for the Portuguese population. We're using estimates for the Portuguese population that were devised by colleagues from Coimbra. And this is a summary of the main characteristics of our economic evaluation. So the setting, it's very important, is the Portuguese setting. So that means that we've tried to the best of our ability to use data for the Portuguese setting. This includes epidemiology, so breast cancer incidence, mortality, breast cancer mortality, all-cause mortality, quality of life weights, costs. I'm probably forgetting something, but you get the idea. And we use this Markov cohort model that we're able to follow women over time as they progress through the different disease stages. We compared two strategies. So we modeled in one arm, we have the current practice, so biennial mammography age 50 to 69, where women are offered a screen every 2 years. And then we compare it to our new intervention that is where women are given a family history questionnaire and also offered a polygenic risk score test. So our study population is then women age 35 without known breast cancer, start age 35, so we start following them over a lifetime, so that's our time horizon. And the analysis perspective is that of the healthcare payer, which in the Portuguese setting is the SNS, so Serviço Nacional de Saúde, which means that we've considered here only costs accrued to that payer. So only healthcare costs that are financed by the SNS. And the output of our model is the cost per quality adjusted life year, QALY, and the cost per life year gained. And the QALY here is a measure that encompasses both morbidity and mortality, and is commonly used for making decisions on whether a new technology, medication, medical device, intervention is value for money, where you put a QALY against a value of willingness to pay for a QALY, and you can tell whether, that's good value for money. So whether we're willing to pay that for a QALY. And one QALY means 1 year lived in full health. And the reference year that we used, and this was the same reference year for all our analysis, so Sweden, Estonia, Portugal, was 2023 euros. The discount rate that we use was 4%, and this is according to the current or the latest guidelines for health technology assessment in Portugal by Perelman 2019. As curiosity, if you might be thinking, did you use that discount rate for all the settings? No, we didn't. So for Estonia, we used 5%, Sweden 3%, and this is according to their own local national guidelines. And what does discounting mean? It means that whatever occurs beyond 1 year, so all the costs that women are going to be accumulating over their lifetime, all the quality of life they're going to be accumulating over their lifetime, all the life years gained that they're going to be accumulating, they're going to be discounted to present value, which means that whatever occurs in the future is valued lower than whatever occurs now, because we have a preference, so as human beings, as society, preference for what we can get now rather than in the future. And the scenario, so we had our current mammography screening and then our polygenic risk score screening arm. So that scenario that we're modeling, the polygenic risk score arm, is actually divided into 5 groups. So based on the clinical results from Portugal that our colleague Gonçalo just presented earlier, we were able to classify women into 5 risk groups. And each group then would be offered a screening strategy. So if you are in group 1, as you can see, where most people are located with 51%, you actually are not offered anything beyond what's currently offered. So you continue the regular screening program. If you're in group 2, then you start your screening 5 years earlier, from age 45. If you're in group 3, you start even earlier, so biennial screening from age 40. If you're in group 4, you start earlier and more often. So from age 37 to 50, you start biannual screening. And then from age 50 to 69, you do annual screening. And finally, those with the highest risk, so with a relative risk more than 2.7, they start even earlier. They're biannual screening at age 35 and then annual screening from age 40. So given the data that we had access to, and right now we're also collecting more more recent data. So these are preliminary results. I'd like to highlight that. So we were able to see in a cohort of 1,000 women, which we are modeling, that risk stratified screening led to larger costs, mainly related to the actual polygenic risk score test, which has, of course, an obvious cost related to it, and consultation costs compared to the current mammography screening. So this requires more investment, initial investment. But we were also able to observe more benefits in terms of breast cancer deaths averted, and I will show the numbers in the next slide. And also more life years gained and more quality adjusted life years gained. And we were able to see also a slight redistribution of the cancer cases. So we could see then that the polygenic risk score arm had slightly more early cancer, so the in situ and stage 1, and slightly fewer advanced cancers with stage 2, 3, and 4. And these are the preliminary results. Again, I'd like to highlight that once more. And what you see in the second column, so the first column, you see the parameters that we got from the model. And the second column, you see the difference. That's always what we want to see, is the incremental, the difference between our new interventions, so the polygenic risk score, and our standard of care, right? The mammography screening currently implemented in Portugal. So we see then the first line, the screening costs, that it actually costs more, 129,400 for a cohort of 1,000 women, which makes sense, right? We're implementing a new intervention. But it costs less in treatment costs. And this is because then we detect these women that are treated, and we are actually detecting fewer women in advanced stages. So we're detecting them earlier, so they cost less in treatment costs. And the overall healthcare cost is larger when we put these two together. We also, of course, have to do more mammographies, which means more false positives. Slightly fewer cases is a very minimal difference here. Around 2 breast cancer deaths averted. And here we consider both a 5-year and a 10-year survival related to breast cancer. 7 life years gained, 8 quality adjusted life years, so 8 years lived in full health for these women. And then what matters to us most is the last row with the cost per quality. So we have 14,000 euros for a quality gained. And here we did some analysis varying the discount rate. So if we don't discount anything occurring in the future, that means that our incremental cost effectiveness ratio, so our cost per quality, is going to be lower. And if we discount it even like at a higher discount rate, of course, then our results are going to be less favorable. In Portugal, there's no actual willingness to pay for equality as there are in other countries. So usually you put this value at different willingness to pays, where you're then able to estimate the probability of cost effectiveness. So that is our next step in the analysis. But basically, to help you understand and us understand also what these values tell us, we looked at other studies that were conducted in the Portuguese setting and looked at their estimates. So right now we have a 14,000 cost per quality. And we looked at 2 studies that were done in the past years. One looking at lung cancer screening with annual computed tomography versus no screening, and one looking at colorectal cancer screening versus no screening. So the study looking at lung cancer screening had a cost per quality of 6,440. And the colorectal cancer screening study had about 800 euro for colonoscopy every 3 years compared to colonoscopy every 10 years. So this was the most cost-effective option. and colonoscopy every 10 years was the cheapest. There's a bunch of other results that it's there if you're interested in reading, but just to benchmark these values. So they are not ridiculously high values. And to round up, I wanted also to show you the results that we had from the analysis in Estonia, Sweden, and Norway. We also did collaborated with colleagues in Norway too, as well. And for Estonia, we observed also a redistribution of breast cancer cases with more early cancers and fewer advanced cancers. 15, so here we had more breast cancer cases averted per 10,000 women screened. So it was 1.5 exactly. So here we had, sorry, yeah, 2.10. So actually, yeah, here we had 2.10, and in Estonia we had 1.5. So 15 per. We inflated the number so that it would look bigger, and a nicer 37.755. So 37,000 per quality gain. So we have a higher ICER here. For Sweden, we saw 7.3 breast cancer deaths averted, so 73 per 10,000 women screened, and an ICER of 3,600 per quality gained. And here, I do have a slide at the end that I was saving for questions. I'm not going to show it, but if you're interested, I've also compared the parameters used in the different models so we could help clarify why we see different numbers. And it's not only because the discount rates are different, but because the screening uptakes are different. The incidence rates of breast cancer are also different. And in Sweden, we actually observe, not in all age groups, but most age groups from age 40. Yeah, from age 40, there's higher incidences of breast cancer than in Portugal. Whereas in Portugal, we observe higher incidences from 35 to 40. And finally, and of course, the cost estimates that we use are also different, and that impacts on the results as well. And finally, in Norway, we had the highest incremental cost effectiveness ratio with 48,200 euros per quality gained and 1.4 breast cancer deaths averted. Yeah, and to wrap up, then we still have some work ahead of us for the Portuguese scenario. And that means also testing different scenarios of integrating polygenic risk score into current screening. We are currently working also with different start ages of screening, assumptions around different parameters. We're also looking for new data to better inform the model. We may make possible corrections according to changes in clinical recommendations for different risk levels. And there may be a need also for examining the impact of combined risk prediction models. I think that's, yeah, my last slide. Thank you. And then if needed, a little extra in the end in case you're really interested about the comparison between the different models. Yeah. Oh.
Questions from this? Discount increase. So is there any way to unify them somehow around the European Union?
I don't think that's a question for me, but more for higher authorities. But okay, maybe I'll bring the, yeah, because it does have a large impact on results. Absolutely, the discount rate. Yeah, but that's why also in the sensitivity analysis that one does, we usually play around with different discount rates so we can see the impact on results. Yeah. Actually, I don't need this yet. You mean to not consider, so to consider other payers than the National Health Service? Not at the moment, but I think that would be a question for antigenes, whether you're considering other payers than the National Health Service, which I assume, yeah, there's a big market in Portugal with all the private healthcare as well. Yeah.
If there is need for this cost estimate, then we can do it, of course. It's if we use the same methodology, we can just use a different input data and model different scenarios. So yeah, not currently, but we're open to do it.
The model can be adapted to like other settings, and we can consider other payers. It's very flexible. Yeah.
Find out maximum cost of your additional tests, so that at the end it's cost effective to take the
We did that actually before for the Estonian setting, but we haven't done that for the Portuguese setting. Yeah, we did that for the pricing analysis, but no, but I will. Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering regarding breast density in young women and false negative, false positive. Sometimes you need to MRI. Consider that in your study.
So in terms of costs, we did consider all the further investigations that would be done to women as needed with the expert knowledge of Gonçalo and Luís. But in terms of the integrating in the model, the proportion of women with the breast density, with high breast density, that we did not. Yeah. So there's a few limitations here that we're very aware of, but that would require then other assumptions, and the model would be more complicated. But that is absolutely lacking. Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
So we believe that it probably could have the round table right now and have coffee after, because we will finish at 5, which is a good time for coffee or tea. So if you agree, I will invite Tamara Milagre from Evita and Professor Vitor Rodrigues from Portuguese League Against Cancer, and him please to come to the podium and we will, okay, please. So I think this, in my opinion, one of the important parts of this meeting, because we have the PI of the Bright project, NIM, and we have 2 persons that represent very well patient associations, let's going to say the society that is trying to do something for those early detection. And I will give the word first to my colleagues, Professor Vitor Rodrigues and Tamara, what they think about this project, what they think we should move forward, other steps, and you do, Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro is, I would say, the major partner for breast cancer screening in Portugal, definitely. Thanks God we have them. If not, we'll be right behind in screening. And Evita, probably you know it, is an important association for those women with a very high risk for breast cancer, and not only breast cancer, is with the monogenic mutations, and they are always in favor of helping all the other women, irrespective of having monogenic variants or not, to help to early detection. So early detection is the key word over there. Okay, so I'll give first the microphone to Professor Vitor. Vitor.
Good afternoon for everybody. First of all, my greetings from Vitor Veloso, is nowadays the president of Portuguese League Against Cancer. I'm just the general secretary. I hope so. And he asked me, he could not come, not because Porto was defeated yesterday. He knew it already. He has another thing, and he asked me to come as the general secretary and as someone that knows a few things about screening, about breast cancer screening. I remember that in my mandate as president of the league, we talked about it, and the league was, from the very beginning, we said that we were interested. If it would be adequate, we would collaborate with this project. Nevertheless, and we'll see that in in 5 minutes probably, it was not possible or adequate. But nevertheless, the Portuguese League Against Cancer, if needed, if adequate, will be quite ready to collaborate with the project that in the future, in practical terms, in the future will be important, I think.
That's good news. Nim, you want to comment that?
Well, I'm maybe Tamara should follow here, but I'm really happy to see such a strong support for stratified breast cancer screening from the patient organizations, and I think this is really a driving force in healthcare nowadays. So. I've been a strong advocate myself also on the genetics first-based prevention in healthcare, and working in the Estonian Biobank. We have had those return of results projects from 2015 along. And when we gave the data back to participants for BRCA and other monogenic variants, we discovered that actually 90% of them were not aware, and we immediately, among 100 women consulted, we discovered 6 new breast cancer cases. So it was really an emotional moment, but we have to also realize that the monogenic findings are present in maybe 1 to 2% of women only, and if by implementing the polygenic risk score testing, and I would like to combine it with monogenic and systematic family history evaluations and other risk factors included in future modeling. But I'm very convinced that we can detect much more early breast cancer cases here, and I'm still a bit confused about the differences in cost utility analysis, but we see that they are all affected on the local healthcare context, discount rates, epidemiology situations. So actually, especially if we are able to implement genetic testing in different cancer types, and we are able to reuse the data, it definitely can be something which is very cost effective. So I'm happy to see and happy to participate in any future activities.
Yeah, so we at the Vita, we are strongly working on prevention and early detection, which is the pillar of any sustainability of any system. So without this, we won't be able to take care of our cancer patients anymore. So more focus on prevention and early detection. And therefore, of course, we were very happy to also collaborate in the recruitment phase for the BRIGHT project. And in fact, we are talking about young women, and there's a new tendency that we have more and more young breast cancer patients. And it's true that only 20% of those young breast cancer patients have a monogenic alteration. So we need to look for other reasons and understand why this happens. So the case study that Gonzalo presented also showed us that the polygenic risk score is also not 100% guarantee. So we are still missing more and more factors that are involved in this breast cancer risk in young women. I mean, we have now 1 in 8 will get breast cancer, or are we already in 1 in 7? I don't know, but these beautiful female organs are turning into time bombs, and we need to find out what is happening here. So we are keen to collaborate. And I was wondering that you had a quite low uptake in genetic counseling or in Estonia. And I was wondering if the communication needs to be improved regarding genetic counseling, because to people be prepared to do something they do not really know what it is, they rather withdraw from it than go for it. So I think the communication part is very important also for that.
Yeah, I fully agree that we need better communication channels, and just sending mails with invitations to breast cancer screening is probably not enough. And we have also shown that other channels might work very well. And but unfortunately, yes, the participation rates in breast cancer screening are not excellent. They are improving, and the consciousness is becoming better. But we would be really happy to contribute and change also the situation in participation in national breast cancer screening.
What is the rate in Estonia for breast cancer screening?
I think it's about 60 now, around 60. 60. Okay, Krista, yeah, 64 was the latest. So it's slowly increasing, but it was below 60. So still.
What is here?
Growth rate. Growth rate. Considering the denominator all population. So I'm aged, not old.
Experience.
Last year in 2023, the North 70%, Centre 72, Alentejo 62, and Lisbon
Yeah.
18.
80?
18.
Oh, 18.
Yeah.
18.
18.
So very low in Lisbon, more in center of Portugal and south.
And north.
No.
2 countries.
2 countries, yes. It's not that.
If you want to continue.
Yeah,
more
please,
figures, sorry. We started breast cancer screening in Portugal in 1990 in the central region, the north region 98, southern region 96, Madeira 99, and the source 2008. Okay. At this very moment, we have 6 million mammographies. I don't like those figures, those absolute figures, but nevertheless, I think they are important. And have been included 1.5 million women with 40 mobile units and 1 fixed unit. We don't screen, we don't screen Algarve. It's another organization. Nevertheless, we have nowadays signed a contract with ACSS. It's an agent who pays sometimes.
Oh.
Okay, sorry.
So I was asking if there was a second micro because there is.
Okay. Okay. To be done and to be performed by the league, I don't know what will happen in 1 month, 2, 3, 4, and 5, or 5, so on. Nevertheless, when I think there is one point I would like to point. We started in the Central region in 1990, age group 45-64. And we did till 2014 like that. In 2014, someone very clever put the inferior limit to 50. I'm not going to say I've been.
Now it's coming back to 45, no?
We hope so.
Yeah.
Unofficially, we know that we'll come to 45 till 74. Nevertheless, we have no formal information, just that.
Because regarding the national registration of breast cancer, new cases, more than half, they occur before 50 and above 70. So we'll be out of the radar of the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell that actually we also historically started in Estonia the breast cancer screening, if I recall, from the age of 45, and then it was changed to 50, and now it's the age range is going to be increased above 70, 72, 74 as well. So.
So I think, Tamara, it's so important. So you gave us how many millions of mammographies you do already?
Now,
Yeah.
6 million.
6 million, okay.
In 1.5 million.
1.5 million of women, okay. And it's important to know, because you know, if right now at my home, I receive a letter, if my wife wants to participate in the screening, but she did her screening here in the hospital, she's a doctor, but I probably in Lisbon, there is not so much participation on the national screening because they do with their assistant doctors or something like that. Probably could be happen that. You think this will be the case?
It's not easy. Let me answer like that. The responsibility, if we can use that word, there are 3 responsibilities. First of all, system responsibility, women responsibility, and screening institution responsibility. Lisbon is different in some aspects. The system is different. There is a lot of private medicine, a lot of health insurance. But my house, the league, must do more things, must adequate. Because everything is done not like 30 years ago, of course not. But sometimes we have to adequate things so that we can increase it. Nevertheless, also, we started in 1990 and 2000, eventually, things are different. So different things need different answers. I will not go deeper.
So I have now a question for Tamara. It's one thing that is happening right now, and we probably know here in on this table, is that European Commission is betting on grants for early detection at high-risk persons. So high-risk persons could be those with monogenic variants, probably the polygenic risk you can detect others. Tamara, do you have in your association people asking, what can I do more besides mammography if it is needed, or if I have age to do it? Is there any asking for better science, you know, to improve the capacity to do really early detection of cancer, which is breast cancer, but not only breast cancer?
So our main question from our community is, how can I do genetic testing? That's the first question, because it's very difficult to access. There's a huge lack of genetic literacy in healthcare professionals, mainly general practitioners who are in front of the family history of cancer. They know less about how to refer people
to genetic counseling. So that is a huge question we have. We now try to solve this first triage digitally on a Vita platform. We have the risk assessment questionnaire where you get an immediate result if you would benefit or not from genetic counseling. No diagnosis, just a triage. And then the other question regarding better screening options for high-risk populations. So our population is very young. We have syndromes. You get breast cancer at 20, as soon as that. So you can see anything in a mammogram. They would need MRI, which is very expensive. So we need alternative things to methods for breast cancer screening. And right now we are involved in a European project that is investigating a new medical device for breast cancer screening. And I think there's also a potential collaboration between EU and this company, UBT, that produced that machine, because that would be a cost-effective screening method. You would do a baseline mammogram with a mammo wave result, and then from there on, you only do mammo wave as often as you wish. There is no radiation, there's no pain. It works well in dense breasts, so this would be a great alternative for our high-risk population and also very cost-effective. You can even do it in pregnant women, which is also very much the case in young women. As we saw in all the countries, you had a lot of breastfeeding women also involved in the study. So that would be really a great option. And we are very happy to see the final results in 2026 regarding this new device. So I propose to talk to them and check out possibilities for collaboration, because I think you would complementary improve early detection of breast cancer.
Thank you for this suggestion, and we definitely consider it. What I wanted to tell is that the current situation with genetic testing is that although we have been for decades aware about the monogenic risk factors, we don't test them on population level. We just look at those families with exceptionally high number of cancers. Then with polygenic risk score, we don't have any systematic solution yet. We still need to discuss the guidelines. So I think in the future we are moving to more and more population screening. Everybody or most of us having some kind of genetic data already, which could be reused, and it makes all those risk estimations much more cost effective. And I think the world will change quite a lot with this, and we need to integrate somehow the other risk factors, family history into those, and surveillance guidelines as well into the risk stratified screening. But I think we are just taking the first steps, and it's important that we don't stay on this, and we take it further.
If I can quickly reply to that, we have evidence that we miss over half of hereditary breast cancer patients because they do not fill in the actual testing guidelines. So therefore, there are some studies that do a populational screening in all breast cancer patients, and they confirmed actually that half of hereditary breast cancer patients are not going along with actual testing criteria. So family history is not the only factor we can have in consideration. I have that example in my own family. So I have both parents with a BRCA1 mutation. And when I found out about my own mutation, I went immediately to the paternal side, because all my aunts and my grandmother, they all had breast and ovarian cancer. And for me, it was no doubt about that. But I had additionally my mother with early onset breast cancer at 44. So we only found out when she had 30 years later, and the other breast, contralateral, multifocal, triple negative, all like it's in the books for BRCA1 mutation. And I asked the doctors to do the test on her because of my nieces. I have 4 nieces. and their father was negative for the paternal mutation. So we found out she had also a mutation, but no family history. There was just a maternal aunt with pancreatic cancer, nothing else. So we need to do better on that also.
Felipe, you have a question? You have a question? Yeah.
I forgot, but
You forgot the question. You forgot the question. Okay, there is it's not
but
I
I can, okay, no worries. Yeah, but it's coming back to me and I think it was, yeah, the numbers, exactly. Because I was,
Of course, yeah. So now
it's just, yeah, I was so surprised when you said that only 18% of women in Lisbon had actually screened through the program. So my first, well, then I understood it was through the program. So that was my first question, if it was specifically through the screening program, and whether it's really that so the women that don't screen, they screen via their private providers, or then there's a very large part of the population that actually doesn't screen, because Lisbon is very large, and there's a lot of different communities that would probably not screen due to their socioeconomic characteristics. Yeah, so very curious about that. And also why the North then is screening more, because there's also a lot of private insurance in the North, and a lot of people going to their private providers. Would you assume that health literacy is actually, regarding breast cancer screening, is higher than in the North than in Lisbon? Yeah, and then in our model, just as a general interest, we use the screening rate of, the uptake rate of 51%, I think, as an average for the country. Yeah, I don't remember the source, but it was one of the reports that I found.
Yeah, I know the source.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell bad things about the source, first of all. Nevertheless, in 1990, or in 91, 92, we belonged to, we were part of the pilot project, breast cancer screening, European breast cancer screening pilot project. And one of the first things we learned was the lesson from Pamplona, from Navarra, 92, 93. Oh, doesn't matter. First determinant of uptake, confidence of the population on the health system. First, eventually second and third. And confidence means confidence in terms of trust, and confidence in terms of organization. And we know perfectly that, for instance, in Lisbon, metropolitan Lisbon, they have no family doctors, or almost no family doctors. And in Portugal, we rely a lot on family doctors. Eventually not in doctor A, B, or C, but on the health system, on GPs and on health centers. This is, for me, is the first point. Second, we started before. For instance, just in the beginning, we used priests because we had no list. We used pharmacies. We used a lot of things because we had no list, health list. So what happened was that the population used to go to breast cancer screening. I'm going to say something in Portuguese, sorry. Como dizia o tio Fernando, primeiro estranha-se, depois entranha-se. So they began to be used. And he was right. So first, second, third. Then you know perfectly that the health insurance system began to grow. But in the north, in Coimbra and so on, we have first healthcare, primary healthcare, and then health system, health assurance. In Lisbon is exactly the contrary. Another point. Third, I am too experienced to breast cancer screening till 30 years to be fundamentalist. I'm no fundamentalist about screening, about population screening. Other things must be done. From the league, from the authorities, the field authorities, and from the government. DG, for instance. So there's a lot of things to do, a lot of things that we must discuss.
I agree with you.
Honestly. Not to say we are the best, you are not good.
Yeah.
I'm the best and you are not. We have to discuss it honestly.
I'll give it.
Population is
Just to set the tone here, it's very important. One day I was in the board of this administration with the president was a former, then he was a minister of health. There was someone just to try to attack totally the screening of cancer. I mean, we need to move forward to personalized screening, but with good steps, not with false steps. And so I think polygenic risk score is one step toward personalized screening in the younger age, and probably also personalized screening at regular age for screening. If maybe you could, in some cases, not to do every year, maybe 2 years, every 2 years, something like that. So we need to move forward on that sense, and we need more science to do personalized screening. We are not yet that. We are not yet there, but we need to move forward. And I think we need to go step by step. And while we are doing step by step, do not create emotional decisions. One saying, oh, there is a lot of false positives, stop it, it's rubbish. And then just look to the numbers, you know, if we can decrease on 30% of maternal breast cancer, and that 30%, that means that it's because of early diagnosis and because of earlier treatment. So both things collaborate. So it's very dangerous if we put not scientific rationality on decisions, just emotion. Emotion and political emotion, that's very, very, very dangerous. So you need to be in favor of the citizens, in favor of the patients, and advocate what we can advocate. Saying that we like to have personalized screening, we do not have a personalized screening yet. I think polygenic score is one step forward on that. Definitely, I think it is important. As well, I think Tamar was saying there is a lot of people with monogenic risk score, because monogenic risk score means 40, 50%, 60% of risk of cancer. It's a lot. And those, we need to discover these people because we can do surgery, probably surgery, other things to prevent cancer. The question is, are we going to find them? You say family history is not enough. I agree. But it's a pity that because people do not know family history, do not discover them. So, you know, there are different pathways to arrive Rome. You know, we have to find all the pathways to arrive Rome. And one of the pathways is the polygenic risk score. Because you see what Gonzalo presented. You see what Professor Nim presented. Because people participate on this project, some people were referred to do genetic counseling, genetic testing, then genetic counseling. You see, it's we call the economists here, we call that externalities, correct? No? Spillover effect. Spillover effect, okay? So you do one thing and the other things happens because you know, that's this economical word, okay? It's a spillover effect. So I think we will do more and more detection of monogenic variants because you do participate, for instance, in polygenic risk score.
Yes, actually, we have already seen that this genotyping data is able to capture some of the founder variants. So we need to elaborate a bit more on this. But for example, in Baltic regions, we have just 2 BRCA1 variants, which are 60 to 80% of all the BRCA findings. So I think it's not so hard to detect those on the genotyping data and to put some validation on this as well. So it's just, we need to start somewhere.
Well, actually, is a question or a commentary. just wondering. Well, first of all, responding to your question, I'm a Red 51D owner of that variant. So thank you for showing and presenting all of this, because for me it was quite important to have a different view. My perspective is like a person who already, I made my first BRCA1 testing when I was 20 something. My mother died from ovarian disease, cancer. And the first of all that I respect about this conference is, first, I thanks to Gonçalo. I really enjoyed his commentary. Like, this is the first time someone who wasn't disease or didn't have a disease come to us. So the first blocking aspect we have when we have this kind of perspective is, well, I actually saw my entire family died of cancer. So it's not a question of if I'm going to have it, I will have it. The question is when and what should I do for this? So I really found interesting, Filippo, your presentation. At least I could find out something like less 10 years. And for me, it's important. I have a 9-year-old daughter. So I have to think about this. So I really appreciate the kinds of discussions we're having here, because for a healthy person, it's quite difficult to go to a doctor and find answers. And this is something I don't, first of all, people will find you if we have this kind of precondition. It's not a different. I used to work a lot in customer experience at healthcare. I worked for COOP, and we had the 360 women persona, which actually represented most of women who actually treat their families and so on. And when they don't ask for treatment, it's because they are having difficulties to deal with this kind of diseases. So probably the kind of buddies or bringing up this kind of other personas that could help these women is crucial to send them to prevention or make them making the testing. Because they are the first ones trying to do and trying not to present their diseases or potential disease to their families. So they don't want to receive something at home like something asking to do a mammography or something. If they can do something different that could not manage their or putting the kind of problems in their own family. So my question here is, what are you thinking about, or what kind of things for a patient that is healthy can expect from this kind of programs, and how can we actually find out a solution of what to do? Is it surgery? Is it about taking other pills, or is it about what and when? So these kind of questions are not addressed. No one tells us what to do. And this is very painful when you actually, I don't want my daughter to present or to have the same experience I had. So what can a patient do in this kind of situations?
If I may start, so when you are genetic mutation carrier identified, you should be explained by the genetic counselor when he gives you the result, what are the consequences and what are your options. So you have surveillance that starts much earlier than the populational screenings. You have also, in some cases, chemical preventative measures, or you have the surgical prevention, the prophylactic surgeries. Then there is much more behind, because you have to take thousands of informed decisions, and you never have been on this journey, so you would love to speak to somebody that has been there. So come to Evita and we bring you in contact to other people. The problem of your mutation is that there is not so much evidence right now, not so much literature on that, but we are working on that. We are on European level, in European Reference Network Gentouris, we are working on new guidelines, endorsing existing guidelines and so on and so forth. Stay in touch with us and we keep you updated, okay? Now to the doctor.
Okay, so more questions? Please, Krista.
Thank you. My question is that, first, Tamara, I made through your questionnaire it's very good. It's simple. You can fill in fast, and these results are also presented very nicely. And just to test that, I must say that it's already here in Portugal and it works well. And what we really have seen from Bright and previous studies, that we can't separate polygenic risk score or monogenic polygenic risk or monogenic. We have to handle them together. And if we have today, we have capabilities and knowledge to put this information together. What's the really missing part that we need to start? Because we came through in Estonia all discussions, and that it was easier to decide to start this early screening, because we have such a like more than 25 years history of starting with biobank, and then, you know, all this kind of stuff, and very motivated researchers, and then finding collaboration in the world, small country as Estonia. And maybe this background is very good, and decisions come a little bit more easier. But in Portugal, I understand that the first and important problem is how to really bring more women into screening. It might be one good goal to go. What we have seen in Estonia was that there was a big difference between different areas. And if they started to send SMS to people when this screening buses were there, they got quite good results, and we got like maybe 5% more acceptance and participation, and some small things. But as I understand, this is one big problem. But maybe these women who don't come to screening, they could really come if it's more personalized. Maybe if it's a next pilot or next research, or what's really the missing part to start?
Okay, I start with the start. We need to change the mindset of also decision makers, because we need first to invest in these new methodologies before we have the return. And the return, I have to invest from my budget, but the return comes for the next government. And then I have not the laws for my investment. That's a huge problem in health we have. The investment needs to be done. Somebody needs to understand what we are talking about and spend this money. But the return is only years later. And then the uptake of breast cancer screening. Do you have in Estonia? Yes, you are also right. Data are crucial. Without data, no knowledge, no proof for anything. So we are not doing very well on this in Portugal. The Portuguese registry, the National Registry of Oncology, does not have one hereditary cancer, or maybe a few from BRCA2P. I don't know if that is happening really. But okay, yeah, that's a different conversation. But there's, for example, no hereditary cancer. And also they do not really feed the registry as it's supposed to be, because you cannot ask an oncologist that has to see 500 patients in a day to go to the registry and register there, whatever. There need to be people contracted that do that registry in an educated way. And the last thing is the uptake. Do you have in Estonia centralized who went for mammogram and who didn't? And do you have a...
Yes.
There you go. There you go. We don't. We have as well women that do not want to go to mammogram, but we also have women that had mammogram in the private sector, and 1 year later they get a letter from the Liga Portuguesa contra o Cancro. They go to the next mammogram, and then a year later they go to a different private hospital and do another one. They do too much. So we do not have real numbers. That is a fact. We need to centralize this information and then send out notifications in a centralized manner. And then we can say, okay, only 80% of the women underwent breast cancer screening.
But then maybe
Right
we
now do
can
not have
say that the problem isn't there because they have screened, they are screened, but not in a national system.
Yeah.
I think the problem in Portugal is not really uptake. The problem is organization. First of all, we have a lot of data, but the different data sets, they do not talk with each other. For instance, in Lisbon, I think that a lot of persons, don't know how many, they are not screened, but controlled. I use the word in different ways. I do like very much to have a word meaning something. So it's organization. Tamara told me about doing some. Normally to my students at university, an example I say is, for instance, me, I can do not a mammogram, but I can have DC something in my private health assurance, my medical GP, my GP, my Previdencia, another mutual system, and there is another I can do. I do the function, the civil servant service. I can do 4 at the same day, and a woman can do 5.
Yeah.
First of all, so we don't have we are missing organization, knowing that sometimes it's good not to have organization, so that a lot of people can do whatever they want.
Yeah. Maybe you want to add something?
Yes, I think the communication and increasing participation rates, this is definitely one question. In Estonia, we have a very centralized healthcare system, which I like, and it needs to be improved as well. And we need to have more data available real time from the central repository. So the hospitals, and they still have primary care, they still have different systems, but this maybe not currently crucial for this. I think we need like political will to establish this stratified screening, which is basically it is there, but what we lack is long-term funding solutions for this. So this is why the first steps would be probably very, very small. I'm just hoping that they will continue, and I'm happy to contribute from the biobank, from those studies like this, where we have the results and we know that people are willing to participate. I'm also advocating the reuse of genetic data, because the genetic data doesn't change over your lifetime, and whenever you have your genome-wide data, it could be used along your entire life for those risk estimations. So if we make the cost utility calculations with half-time genotyping price, or maybe 1/3 of genotyping price, I think that the numbers would become much better. And maybe, I don't know if we are coming to an end, but I'm really, really thankful that we have become such good collaborators and good, I would say, good friends, small countries working on the same common target, the stratified breast cancer screening.
That's another spillover effect. Okay, so I think it's just a final word and something that happened just about 1 month ago, and where Tamara was involved, Debo was there also. We organized just a meeting, international meeting for breast cancer young women. We had over there representatives from 16 countries. And I really enjoy very much one of the sessions that was organized by the civilian society. Let's go for Tamara. She suggested, so know your risk. And that was composed by person such as Tamara that has monogenic risk, one person from Ireland that had a breast cancer in a dense breast, it was a lobular one, looks our case here. So anyone deserves the right answer for themselves. The question is, we need two things: more science and more management, how to produce the science toward to the citizens. Because the technology can grow very fast, but if you don't manage how to make that real useful for the citizens, we lost the train. And that's something that really we have. Here, the step that we discussed until now was bright project risk score, seems to be more easy. I don't know exactly what is the price, but it's far low what is you could imagine, because people sometimes, we present a Wonko-type result here. Wonko-type was necessary to determine the risk of relapse and doing or not doing breast cancer, doing or not chemo. The hospital pays for this test. We asked the hospital to pay for this test. It's just about 100 women per year that we need to do that test, but the test costs about almost 3,000 euros. That test, it's a lot of money. So when we talk about genomics, it's not everything the same. It's not the same the price for doing a monogenic test. It's not the same the price for doing a polygenic risk scores are low. It's not the same for doing Oncotype. But sometimes we need also literacy regarding this point. But people know it's different uses of genomics. So this is very important as well. We want to solve the problem before the people have cancers that need to do chemo. We need to solve the problem. And for me, one of the most important figures was presented here was when Felipe showed on her model that we could probably save 2 lives in 1,000 of the persons participating on a polygenic risk score, 2 lives for 1,000. That's a lot. Means 20 if you have 10,000. That's a lot. And it's an enormous contribution for the society. It's an enormous contribution for economic loss and for the business of the process. So if you agree, we have coffee outside. I'd like to finish this roundtable. Thank you so much, Neem. Thank you so much, Tamara. Thank you so much, Vitor. Thanks so much for all who participate on this session. Thanks so much. We have here radiologists, says Isabel, that collaborated in this bright project, doing the mammographies to our patients. The team that saw a lot of patients. Enrique is putting our data to all of our patients, not only the clinical data, but also the mammogram results and the families and so on. We want to have that as a serving provider then for science for the future. And we want to connect that with our Estonian colleagues and so on, and Swedish. So we want to do better for our patients. Yes, final word for you.
And finally, I just wanted to thank also Swedish collaborators and Hungarian collaborators and Spanish collaborators also being present in this seminar.
Thank you. Coffee outside.
Thank you.
Anyway.
That was dangerous. I saw that.
Tirar aqui a pena.
Como?
Isto é um bocado difícil de manobrar.
Pois,
esta bolinha.
tem que ser.
Então, chega aqui, não é? E tu?